Kashgar was once a kingdom, but now it is subject to the Great Khan. It has villages and towns in plenty. The biggest city, and the most splendid, is Kashgar. Marco Polo, 13th century AD.
Kashgar is the center of the Asian Silk Road. It was a transportation hub connecting North, South, and Central Asia. A truly rich and diverse culture, Kashgar is comprised of a combination of Asian, Grecian, and other European cultures. The people of this unique region are made up of such a brilliant and splendid societal mix, not just a single ethnic group.
The ancient city of Kashgar is the western gateway to China at the intersection of the northern and southern Silk Road trade route. The Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region is home to 47 ethnic groups, most notably the Uyghur Muslims.
My family has been selling roasted buns from this house in the old city for so many generations I can't even count them. The craft and recipes have been handed down from my great-grandfather to his son, to my father, and then passed down to me. I will give the business to my son someday as well.
I was born in Kashgar. I always come here to paint the high platform residential area. I was completely fascinated by the classical old architecture of the houses. I could go to the countryside to paint, but I found an artist's paradise here. The old town is so peaceful. The way I see it, the old city represents the spirit of Kashgar people.
Seismic is a traditional snack food. In the winter months, we mix together mutton oil, flour, honey, and eggs. For the summer, it is made of rice, cream, eggs, and honey. Everyone likes dragon, beer, candy, or pashmak. Children and tourists. The white color stands for good luck. So I like to cook it for everybody to wish them the best of luck.
The fabric that I'm wearing right now is the kind of fabric that we use to make our clothes. I like it because it is so unique and much different from the Han ethnic clothing style. I learned from the people of Ho Tien. I liked it ever since I saw it. This is exactly our style, our traditional style. Anything that relates to our culture, I like best of all.
The old city for Kashgar. It is like the soul of a typical Kashgar citizen. To lose our old city would be to feel like we lost our habits, or even our custom or traditions.
Kashgar is in an area that is earthquake prone. The city and culture of these ancient people are in danger daily.
Some areas have high rates of earthquakes, and we know they're inevitable, and they could be 50 years away, or they could be 1 year. 5 years, 2 years, 1 year before Wenchuan, I don't think anybody would have pointed to that point on the globe and said, well, that's where the next big one is going to be. But it's when, it's like the Haiti earthquake, when the dart hits the bullseye, that's when you've got the catastrophe.
Buildings in the new areas of Kashgar are able to withstand a magnitude 8 seismic event. But in the old city, there's no way it could resist that power, or even a magnitude 7 earthquake. If a level 7 were to happen, it would be extremely devastating.
And it's these faults through here, and these red-orange dots are magnitude 7s and 8s that have happened just since 1964. Some of them don't have a huge impact if they're in relatively remote areas, but these are the darts. And if your city is sitting right here, the concern is that eventually, one of these big dots is going to land on it. This is the problem. India, it's not a distinct landmass, but it's continuing to push at a rate of about 4 centimeters, so about 2 inches a year. It's trying to move north. And so it's hitting a immovable object. So you're building up these mountains, and that's been going on for 10 million years. So you have this big, thick, high plateau.
And the city of Kashgar is right in its path. It has a written record of over 2,000 years, an historic city that has been an important stop along the ancient Silk Road trade route, which hosted the likes of China's grand historian Zhang Qian and Marco Polo.
This area faces west, connecting with 8 countries and Eurasia, so its location is an important strategic position in Middle Asia. Between 100 and 200 years ago, the Russian Empire of Tsars battled England for this area for more than a century because they believed that the location along the Silk Road trade route was very important in world affairs. Eventually, they established the embassies right at this spot. In addition, the South, North, and the Middle Silk Roads converge here. Merchants from Central Asia brought their goods, would trade and then relax here. After filling their carts with wares, they would return across the Pamir Mountains to Central Asia. This is why this location became such an important international port to handle the transportation of goods.
The inhabitants live by trade and handicrafts. They have very fine orchards and vineyards and flourishing estates. The soil is fruitful and productive for all the means of life. This country is the starting point from which many merchants set out to market their wares all over the world. The inhabitants have a language of their own.
The Uyghur people have a long and colorful history. In fact, 1,000 years in this old city. Though a minority population, the people are full of life, with their own expressive language and a living standard that simply includes the pursuit of a happy life. Their brightly colored clothing is so unique, as are customs like their funeral services. We need to continue to understand this rich culture. The government knows that rebuilding and strengthening the homes and the businesses of the old city is paramount to protecting the 200,000 Uyghur residents there. Nobody is forcing change on their lifestyle, and nobody wants to change it because they have lived here for over 1,000 years. Their ethnic tastes in food, their individual language, and the customs they enjoy will surely be preserved as the government works to fortify and protect the old city. The old city is being well protected by the reconstruction project so that their way of life is also preserved completely, including ethnic-style food and handicrafts such as embroidery and wood carving.
There is a modern city surrounding a historic quarter that is rich in the culture of the people who have inhabited this area for centuries. It is natural for the people who live here to resist change. Many don't want to be uprooted from their homes and their native way of life. However, the government recognizes the urgency to protect Kashgar, and for good reason. The dangers are real, as witnessed in nearby Sichuan province in 2008, and the government doesn't want history to be repeated.
It was very hard for us to make such a decision until the day that the earthquake struck Wenchuan. Then the government took it seriously. We believe if such an event happens in Kashgar, the death toll would be very large.
And that's typically what you see, is that these vulnerable cities just sit there, and eventually they get flattened. And then the countries, the world sometimes rushes in with resources and to rebuild them. But to tackle the problem before the disaster is what you really would like to see more countries doing.
Just like in this remote region of China, where the government is taking a very proactive stand, the last thing they want to experience is another Wenchuan, where more than 87,000 residents died.
So here is Kashgar. The regions east, north, and west of Kashgar all have many earthquakes, which happen frequently and strongly affect Kashgar. The protective reconstruction is an urgent matter and should be completed as quickly as possible. We don't know when an earthquake might happen. That's why Kashgar's old city redevelopment should not just be sped up, but proceed without delay.
In terms of the death toll that earthquakes have ever taken throughout history, the most deadly earthquake to date was in China, near Xi'an in 1556. And the official death toll is estimated at 830,000 people for that one. And I've asked, because you wonder 500 years ago, were there really good records? And people who know about it think that it is a good number.
Because we have earthquakes all around this area, in order to protect our people's lives and welfare, we need to reinforce the entire old city. Being a socialist country, our government is strong enough and has the ability to pay for the reconstruction in order to protect our people's lives and property. We can and will strengthen their homes.
The Kashgar Old City can be divided into 88 districts, among which the first district, as well as being the core district, is the most important and has had over 1,000 years of history. Officials of the central government, the Xinjiang Autonomous Regional Government, and the local city government all agreed that the 1,000-year-old ancient city must be protected against destruction. Hence, we will strengthen its earthquake-resistant capability and improve the infrastructure, guaranteeing that the old city is properly maintained. The protective reconstruction is to preserve the old city. We try to keep the original styles on one hand and repair the dilapidated on the other, thus to safeguard the buildings.
We realized a devastating earthquake will happen. We just don't know when it will occur here. To save lives, we need to proceed with the reconstruction as soon as possible, and we must be determined to complete it quickly.
There's nothing like a disaster like Wenchuan to bring the point home to the country that there's issues elsewhere.
After the earthquake in Wenchuan County on May 12, officials from the central government, the autonomous region, and the district all made up their minds to start the reconstruction plan in order to improve the welfare of the people and to prevent destruction from disasters.
The project has a 5-year plan with a national investment of $500 million US. Local government is self-financing the rest at $600 million US. The project covers the reconstruction of 65,000 family homes with a population of 220,000 people, taking 5 years at a total cost of over $1 billion US.
The central government in China has committed to an aggressive 5-year project to reinforce or reconstruct the ancient city of Kashgar to protect the 200,000 plus residents who live in danger from potential disaster. But not everyone is pleased.
There has been some domestic and international concern regarding the old city reconstruction project. In particular, some anti-China forces and biased groups have tried to exaggerate the negative side of this project to influence the public opinion.
And some of the residents don't want their homes changed.
My home is very rich with our people's historical Uyghur culture. You see my home here. It has 200 years of history. The structure has the characteristics of a palace. You can see in its artistic form of the Uyghur architecture. And that's definitely something I do not want to lose.
But this does not represent the belief of the majority. The government officers in each neighborhood reach out to the community and meet with the residents of the old city to explain the plans. Their mission is to discuss options with each homeowner so they understand why the reconstruction or retrofitting is essential. The entire process is explained, and any questions are answered to help alleviate fears they might have. Each resident can choose one of the options presented or choose to do nothing.
We are required to visit everyone door to door, and we will not begin the measurements or start demolition until the homeowners agree. Residents will receive compensation for moving and renting an apartment after the work begins to their homes. Their houses are demolished and rebuilt to their specifications. Once reconstruction is completed, they could move into their newly rebuilt house. In the beginning, people were not cooperative because it was too abrupt.
Some people were reluctant to move because these houses were inherited from their forefathers. They did not want to leave the place. So when trying to solve the problem, we helped them realize the poor conditions of the structure and how they would enjoy the modern conveniences after moving to the new building.
After repeated communication with them, they agreed to it.
I did not agree to demolish it, for I did not understand the project. Now I have understood. The government will build a new house for me for free. How can I reject such a good thing? I agree on the demolition of the old house.
There are 3 people in my family. My child works in the village committee, and my wife takes care of the household. She is sick and unable to walk. The old house was built with bricks, but with no steel. It's not earthquake resistant. Now the government has paid to build a strong and earthquake-resistant house. I'm quite content with it. We stayed with my relatives when my house was demolished. I came to see it every month. Now the overall structure and conditions of the house are better than the old one. We will not worry about the earthquake, since the new house can resist large earthquakes. This door belonged to the old house, and I did not throw it away because it is still strong. So I put it here. The second floor was added by us after the government helped build the first. It's just like we have imagined. We worked out the design of the house, and the government built it based on the design. They did not change it at all. Now the house is almost completed, and we will move in as soon as they finish the work.
We did a lot, but to get there, we followed a crooked path instead of getting straight to the point. The old town of Kashgar is a priceless gem, but it will never withstand a major earthquake. When we began the planning to safeguard Kashgar, we had several different ideas for reconstruction projects. Originally, we wanted to move people to a new suburban area and design new residential houses before an earthquake would cause the houses to collapse. But this concept was not practical because the residents in the area have been living there for a very long time. They have all kinds of social and lifelong relationships. The centralized location is convenient for shopping, working, and socializing. Many of them have their own workshops, restaurants, stores, etc. It's not only about their homes, but also about the way they live their lives. Because of this, they did not want to move to the new residential area we built outside the urban area of the old city.
The high platform residential area is part of the reconstruction of the old city project. Buildings here are complex and are quite a mess. No rules were followed. Sometimes they have 2 floors, other times they have 3 floors. And none are built scientifically. Underground, there also are many tunnels which were dug in the late 1960s. Therefore, these buildings have a high risk factor. Especially if a 6 to 7 magnitude earthquake occurs, it would be extremely dangerous.
The high platform area is a bluff that was built up to keep the homes of this ancient city above the water flowing along the Tuman River. The homes of the old city were built out of the adobe clay from the riverbanks for centuries, but because the engineering of past centuries did not include steel reinforcement, most of the homes were built without modern building codes.
With the purpose of protecting people's lives, we consider their safety versus their property and their culture. Of course, we give priority to their lives. But by protecting their homes through rebuilding, we are also enhancing their safety while protecting their way of life and hence their culture. We believe that Uyghur culture is very important to the area.
A fundamental benefit of the project is that everyone is able to earn a living. During the rebuilding of the city, at least one family member from each household, if he has the capacity to work and is over the age of 18, will have the chance to be trained by the government to make sure that he gets the skills that are needed to find a job. And he won't pay even 1 penny of his own money for this training.
These are government jobs, but will help the people of the city learn to branch out and carry these lifelong professional skills, enhancing their health and wealth well into the future.
I have been conducting business here for 50 years. I started to learn the craft when I was 12, and I am 62 years old now. The Uyghur style of steel art craft is full of ethnic characteristics. Our government has attached great importance to what we do and helped to build a new shop for us, for which we have been very grateful. In the past, we used to make axes, hoes, sickles, and mattocks. Now people use modern agricultural tools such as tractors and lawnmowers. The old tools are difficult to sell, which makes our life harder. We are now trying to create some new and more popular items in order to make a living. There are 12 people in my family, including my mother, my 2 sons, 3 daughters, and my grandchildren. I provide for my family by relying on this industry. My 2 sons work with me. We live an ordinary, simple life. I have been making money with my skills and paying the tuition at my children's schools. Now, all my daughters have become doctors, and my sons work by learning from me. Normally, we make roughly $8 to $10 a day, but when business is good, we can make up to $15. Now, I am too old for the hard labor involved, so my sons do that work and I mostly spend my time selling our products. We are very satisfied with the construction of the old city, as most of the workshops were very old and in need of repair. The government has helped us by modernizing and rebuilding earthquake-resistant shops to protect all of us. I think everyone is very grateful.
It is the Uyghur tradition which has been represented in our architectures and culture. We wanted to keep the original historical structure, so we refused to reconstruct it.
Though there has been controversy among residents of Kashgar about losing their livelihood or being displaced permanently, many realize the benefits of the government rebuilding program.
We absolutely want the government to rebuild our home. Who wants to live in a dangerous old house like this? It is dusty, which is not good for my health. I have emphysema. I will be very happy when the government rebuilds and gives me my clean, new home. Very happy.
This house was rebuilt according to the government reconstruction plan. It cost $53 per square foot. The inner and outer decoration, including the roof design, is done by the owner. This house is 785 square feet. The government paid $15,000 for construction of the main building. This cost does not include cable TV, electricity, and the sewer system. Road widening, construction, and maintenance is estimated at about $10,000 to $12,000. Most of the residents in the community are very happy about their newly rebuilt homes. In the old city, it is not easy for the residents to rebuild a house because they cannot afford it. In the old days, some residents who are a little wealthier wanted to build a house, but the document application process was so complicated. It is also too difficult for them to carry the mud and transport the raw materials to build a house. Right now, the government is reconstructing the whole area, including widening the roads. The residents don't need to pay anything. The government redesigns the residents' houses according to the way they want them, no matter what they want to change about the design, the structure, or the size. Because the square footage of every lot is different and each resident's home size varies, our architects, our planners, and our designers all work together to make sure their homes are redesigned and constructed individually to meet their requirements, even for minor changes in their structure and style. We will develop Kashgar as an economic development zone, which enjoys the preferential policy of an SEZ, a special economic zone, which has been approved by the State Council. However, during this development, some people might have worried whether the old city would disappear. In fact, the central area with a total 1 square kilometer of acreage in the old city is developed and protected as a core area, which covered 12,770 households and 45,000 people. No private real estate developer would be allowed to take part in the redevelopment of the core area. No commercial development is allowed in this place. No new modern buildings will be built here either. All the original buildings with their special ethnic characteristics will be kept intact, so it won't be destroyed at all. We have long agreed on that. 3,915 homes in the core area were transformed, either reinforced or reconstructed in 2010. We'll complete 28 districts in the old city within 5 years from the time we started work.
Therefore, we figured out a plan to reinforce the city, but we still could not figure out the right way to do it. When you go to Kashgar, you see that the houses were built with adobe, but reinforcing adobe structures is impossible because they will not withstand a strong earthquake. And now we have a huge dilemma. After the earthquake in Wenchuan, we worried more about this. Imagine if the same size earthquake happened in Kashgar, the death toll would be enormous. In Bam, Iran, we heard that 30 to 40,000 people died in the earthquake there. Now, we had to figure out a new way to accomplish our goal. So we made another plan for the design of the houses, according to a new, different kind of idea. We decided to deconstruct them and reconstruct them again. After the reconstruction, the design will be similar to the original concept. We added a new kitchen for the residents and gas pipes. And we plan and design the new structures to make sure they will withstand at least an 8.5 magnitude earthquake. After reconstruction, additional details will be done for the exterior appearance of the buildings. Then we ask each family to design what kind of decor they want on the inside. In the meantime, we go visit every family and ask them for their opinion, their design, their plan. We meet to discuss this with every family 3 times. Then we create the architectural blueprint as well. Next, we design the home's architecture for them and consult with the family regarding any adjustments. Sometimes we change the plan several times before a final decision is agreed upon.
This house belongs to Abu Durrahman. When he or any resident agrees to the reconstruction plan, the first thing we do is to take measurements of the entire house. We go through each home, noting the original size of every room on a detailed floor plan. According to our research, this particular home has a history of over 200 years. Structural engineers have decided that, rather than demolition, some repair plus reinforcement is all that is necessary to this aging home of the old city. Additionally, to make the transportation less congested in the old city, we have identified the need to expand or widen this road. But some buildings happen to be in the way, including Abu Darhaman's. We have had a number of discussions with him, and he agreed to allow us to demolish part of the building without damaging the whole structure. And of course, we will compensate him for that.
Abu Durrahman resisted the government plan for 2 years. But after seeing what they did for his neighbors, he decided it was a good plan and changed his mind.
Since the house is a cultural relic, we invited some experts to draw up custom plans for the repairs and reinforcement of the house. After receiving the approved designs, we began the work. You could see, just looking at the columns and the original building materials, that it is over 200 years old. During reconstruction of these aged and dilapidated homes of the old city, we make the reinforcements on the basis of the original house, which, though very old, have considerable history, as seen by these columns. This house was too old to live in, so it was converted into a warehouse. We have made specific repairs and reinforcement to it. There are about 40 to 50 houses like this one in the old city. In order to make sure the rebuilding is perfect, the government has invited construction specialists to work on the designs. We have made appropriate reinforcements on the original structure to ensure that it is earthquake resistant.
I was very happy about reconstruction in the old city. The government wanted to give me a flat. I agreed, no matter if they were to give me a flat or rebuild my old home. That's fine. After I thought about it, I decided I'd like to have my home rebuilt for sentimental reasons, because this is the home my husband left for us, so I'd love to keep it. And the government agreed to rebuild it. After coming to my house and meeting with me, they showed me how their plans would protect me from a large earthquake by reinforcing inside the walls and the roof. And they said, when my home is finished, it would look just like the old style of our city, but would be much more beautiful. Now it is fresh and new, not old and dirty. My windows open and close easily. I no longer get splinters, and the doors don't squeak. It looks very much the same, but clean and nice.
In the high platform residential area, we are adding electric power and water directly into the residents' homes. Other improvements to the city include things such as widening the roads to allow small-scale fire trucks better access in case of a fire. Most important to the safety of the residents of the old city is earthquake resistance. Yet, at the same time, we want to preserve the original look and traditional characteristics. This is the building where we just completed construction. Now you can see everything appears just as it was in the original street, and the buildings look the same. But we've added a vitally important reinforcing element: rebar and concrete. Every structure is being built with the strength to withstand a magnitude 8.5 earthquake.
The first and foremost task is to improve the quality of the houses and make sure that people's lives and property are safe. And that really is the first challenge.
Due to the massive scale of reconstruction, some residents, in particular those whose homes are being completely rebuilt, are temporarily relocated to modern flats, which have been constructed primarily for the renovation period. The apartments have been built on the outskirts of the old city, where it makes the transition from their old homes easier, while also providing the Uyghur people the ability to continue their livelihoods without major interruption.
We moved here on February 26, 2009, and we were the first group to move into these apartments. Our old house in the old city was only 20 square meters, very dark and small. With the help of the government, we moved in a bright and bigger house. When the government notified us to move to the new house, I was the first to go to the village committee to sign my name. We were not forced to move, but I loved the idea of moving because my old house was so small and dark. The new house has a total area of 48 square meters with electricity, water, heating system, bathroom, and kitchen. Our move to the new home was painless and trouble-free, and we paid nothing. All of our costs were covered. We only need to pay the gas and electricity bill now. It is very convenient to cook, and the heating system is very good. We used to cook or heat the room by burning coal. Now we have gas and many less problems than before.
The government realized that when moving me to the new apartments, there would be a problem because of my kilns. They were built into my old home and they could not be moved to the modern flat. They agreed that if I cannot make pottery, I cannot feed my family. So, in order to move, the government decided they would help find a workshop where I can make pottery and continue to conduct my business. I told them I could not afford to pay for a home and a shop, and they told me it was no problem because all costs would be covered until they moved me back into the rebuilt home in the old city quarter.
Before, my home was very old and very poor and not even suitable to live in. The government gave me a new flat with 50 square meters. My old home was only 35 square meters. I'm very thankful to the government. My new home is so bright. I feel so comfortable. I'm very happy with this government plan.
With the danger of a major earthquake or disaster ever present, the government is hoping to lessen the impact of a major event such as a large earthquake, saving hundreds of thousands of lives and the unique culture of Kashgar.
We try to keep the original style of the Uyghur traditional design, from the adobe structure to the steel frame building. Our government does such a great job for the people. If we do not reinforce them, the houses will absolutely come crashing down. The foundation is so poor, and some don't even have a foundation. You know, when we started the rebuilding, some of the houses were crumbling and even falling down. Right now, we are keeping the original style and strengthening the foundation and making sure it can stand up to an 8.5 magnitude quake. The buildings are very high quality, and the steel used is the same as the steel used to construct the much larger modern houses. We do not receive great financial benefits from this process, but we are doing great things for the people and for the government. Look here, these people, they just did not want to have their house rebuilt in the beginning. But now they are sorry, they refuse, and now they come back every couple of days asking us to rebuild the house because they know the house is so weak, it won't withstand anything.
But still, we have some residents who don't want to have their houses rebuilt because they can't figure out how good or bad the reconstruction is. They just don't want to rebuild the house. Their belief is that in the event of a disaster, and even though they might be crushed by their house collapsing, their conviction is that it is the will of Allah. According to the experts, new buildings in the community are able to resist at least a magnitude 8 earthquake.
With a solution available, can the government convince the people of Kashgar that reconstruction should not be an option?
It is possible to build structures that will withstand just about any earthquake. And if you have landsliding, you can't really mitigate that if a whole hillside's going to give way. That's not really something we can deal with except to avoid the landslide-prone areas. But short of that, if a structure is going to be shaken, it can be engineered and built well enough to withstand almost any earthquake.
This is Sawar Haji's home. Officers of this community came several times to persuade him to rebuild his old home. However, he disagreed because of the long history of his house. His family has lived here for many generations. His house partially collapsed 4 or 5 months ago. We have come here a number of times to persuade them to rebuild a new one, but the family still rejected our plan because of its long history. They continue to live in the part which has not yet collapsed. The family here is very poor and cannot afford the cost to repair the collapsed portion of the property. The government understands their economic situation and stepped in and offered new construction of a 300 square meter home, including all decorative exterior design and of course a reinforced roof. However, they still refused.
In the beginning, some of my neighbors were skeptical and disagreed to move to temporary housing. But after we were all shown how some of the buildings were fragile and crumbling, they decided moving out to allow rebuilding was the right thing to do because their old homes were so dangerous. The government paid all of their rent for their temporary residency while their home was being rebuilt. I think it is rare to find a project of such grand scale where a government takes on the burden to pay for the welfare of the people while reconstructing the entire community. They are very poor and even have no money to repair the collapsed portion. The government knows their economic situation and told them if they want, the government would like to rebuild a 300 square meters new home for them, including all decorations and the roof, but still they refused.
My husband died in 2005. I was living with my son. I told him, let's continue to make pottery. My son said he was afraid we could not make it as good as his father. I encouraged him. What I don't know, you know. And what you don't know, I know. So let's do it. Finally, we proceeded. I design the patterns for all the pottery that we make, and then my son puts the pottery into the kiln.
Teşkilattan hem de hükümetten hem de o taraftan biz özümüz ya sapırımız ya setimiz ya bina verimiz dedi şunu okladık.
Of course it's dangerous. We don't like to stay in the dangerous home also. We want to repair it, but unfortunately we don't have enough money. The government said, stay here now and we will reconstruct your home. Or maybe buy your dangerous home and let you move out to a flat.
Well, our guideline is to put the homeowner's interest first. People do come first. We are to improve and protect our old city. So, the central government made the decision to fully address the problems of the residents of Kashgar City, as well as the other underdeveloped areas in Xinjiang. The residents have lived in such poor conditions for such a long time. No tap water, no sewer, no gas. There is a saying in the old city that sewage waste is removed by evaporation and the garbage is picked up by the wind, and water comes from the rain dripping down the outer wall. After reconstruction, the residents enjoy all the benefits of the new buildings and live with a much better quality of life.
Chinese culture, Western culture, and Uyghur culture make up the three essential parts of the civilization in this area. We cannot separate any one of these. Without the Uyghurs, the Chinese civilization is not complete. Without the Chinese, the Uyghur civilization could not exist here.
In any area where you need to make big improvements in resilience, it's a race against time to get things ready for an earthquake that could happen anytime.
The Uyghur Muslims in the old city of Kashgar have enjoyed a simple, peaceful lifestyle for centuries. Change doesn't come easily for anyone, and the central government is sensitive to the wishes of the people to continue living and working in the manner they have always known. The ultimate test of their plan will only be realized after the inevitable large-scale earthquake strikes. Only then will the residents truly appreciate the government's attempt to protect Kashgar.